So unlike my other reviews of season 4, for this episode I'll be taking the unorthodox approach. Considering how unexpected this was, I assume everyone didn't see this coming, and in hindsight it speaks to the absence of a trailer, or at the very least a preview for this one, because I think had there been one, many people would be scratching their heads and there might have been negative reception all before the episode even came out. Personally, I didn't mind it. I was so invested that I was convinced that this was based on a real event. Like afterwards, I was googling Thomas Washington to see if there was actually a black CEO of Disney that was just put into that position by accident. Come to find out there wasn't, but it would have been hella cool if there was. In actuality, I couldn't even imagine a mistake like this even getting a chance to fully flesh out the way this documentary illustrated. Nonetheless, I thought it was very convincing, and I think that's just a testament to not only Donald but the writers behind this episode. Now, getting to the meat of the matter, over on a subreddit I saw a lot of discussion, a lot of great ideas left and right as to what this episode could mean, and the general consensus is that it is not exactly unrelated but exactly referential to what's going on in the main story of Atlanta. And it would take me many hours to even cover a majority of them, but the one that I subscribe to the most is that it has something to do with Alfred. Now, reasons for that is back in season 3 there is an episode titled New Jazz where Paperboy and a character named Lorraine is walking around Amsterdam. Right at the end of the episode, Alfred is seen covered in a blanket wearing a Goofy hat, sat very close to the entrance of a door, and the title of this episode is called The Goof Who Sat by the Door. So a lot of people are speculating that this episode foreshadows the fate of Alfred. I'm steering close to it being more of a coincidence than its literal interpretation, but given the amount of close calls Alfred has had up until this point, especially not that long ago, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that just maybe this is a death flag. Things seem to be going well so far, and so for Atlanta to subvert expectations, it would add up essentially. But between all the characters, Alfred is someone I would definitely want to see have his, I guess, closure or happy ending, especially after all he's been through and worked for. But I mean, there's only 2 episodes left, so we can only cross our fingers. But you know what I'm starting to realize? Every 8th episode since like season 2 has had Alfred's life at stake to some degree, and assuming the example that I brought is true, the Goof Who Sat by the Door takes a very indirect approach. I mean, that's some food for thought, but what do you guys think? I think as a standalone, this episode does extremely well. I kind of just took it for it being about a man who, whether by mistake or even fate, got to a position of power where he can finally shed light on the racial tensions of his time through a pretty accessible medium such as cartoon or animation. But because of the era he's in, where black people aren't exactly the most respected, it only led to him reaching his demise much faster. Couple that with the lack of resource for mental health. And so I think a point that this episode drives with the tale of Thomas Washington is that, especially as a black creator, a lot of the work, regardless of talent, is having to deal with the pressure of having to constantly prove yourself time and time again. And that just might be a very surface level way of viewing this episode. I mean, it wasn't until like the latter half of his career that things started to take a turn for the worse. Once he caught whiff that what he had envisioned was altered and changed, that was just his breaking point. And so it's a pretty depressing story in hindsight. And what makes this a little more heartbreaking is that he had imagined himself going all out and sharing the black experience, and even after getting the ability to do so, it was never met. And I can only imagine it being hard for anyone to fathom. But anyways, that's really all that I have to say in regards to this episode. As I said before, I thought it was really good, especially as a standalone. What do you guys think? Do you think it had any relation to the main storyline, if any at all? If there's anything else you'd like to discuss, then please comment below. I'd really like to entertain that. Please take care of yourself and have yourself a good one.